A new TYT Investigates piece shows how Wall Street corruption played a massive role in convincing corporate Democrats to avoid fighting to extend the eviction moratorium when it had recently expired. Now, luckily, the CDC under the Biden administration was pressured to extend the moratorium because of wonderful progressives like Cori Bush, forcing them to bend to her will. She did a protest where she slept on the steps of the Capitol for several nights, and it embarrassed the Biden administration, so they extended the moratorium, although it wasn't as robust as the previous moratorium. But nonetheless, we're now seeing the figures that some corporate Democrats, including those in Democratic leadership, received from Wall Street interests who seek to end the moratorium as soon as possible. So alongside Pelosi, Democratic leaders, including Steny Hoyer, who's the House Majority Leader, and 3 other Democratic leaders issued a statement calling for action, but then passed the buck to the White House and blamed the Supreme Court for inaction. But remember, the Supreme Court also indicated that it was up to Congress to do something about the moratorium. So to pass the buck to the Supreme Court is laughable. So why? Why did that happen? Well, turns out that there was quite a bit in the form of campaign donations to people like Steny Hoyer. In the 2020 election cycle, the House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer took money from several Wall Street firms that have been buying up single-family homes in the last year ahead of the looming eviction crisis. The firms include Vanguard, Goldman Sachs, Carlyle Group, and Invesco. To give you some specific numbers, Hoyer took $5,000 from Vanguard's PAC in the most recent election cycle. Vanguard Group has index funds that account for almost 12% of all shares of American homes for rent. According to data compiled by the private equity and corporate landlord tracker, American Homes for Rent filed more than 100 evictions this past year, even when it was wrong to do so based on the eviction moratorium that was in place. But part of the problem is the eviction moratorium doesn't get enforced, certainly not in a uniform way throughout the country. And despite the moratorium, many eviction cases are still in process. Princeton University's eviction lab found that more than 6,000 evictions were filed last week alone. Why aren't these members of Congress who purport to care about Americans during this pandemic getting involved to ensure that these eviction moratoriums are actually being enforced properly? Carlyle Group has also been directly involved with evictions despite the moratorium. According to the tracker, the investment group opened 250 eviction cases in the past year. Steny Hoyer took $2,000 from Carlyle's PAC in December of 2019 alone. And just one more figure to give you guys because I think it's important. Hoyer also took $5,000 from Goldman Sachs in 2020 and every year, by the way, since 2007. That's according to FEC receipts. So TYT is one of the few organizations that actually report on money in politics. And so I love that TYT Investigates, which is our objective arm. We're objective here with the facts, but we add commentary and analysis on top. But the reporters at TYT, they just cover the facts, and those are facts. Hoyer takes money from people who are in the real estate industry, and then he is basically going along with Pelosi and not really doing anything about the eviction moratorium and passing the buck, as Anna just explained to you. Those are facts. They're uncomfortable facts. If you ever want to get an interview with Steny Hoyer, and he did not respond to us, of course, you don't write a story like that because then you'll get cut off. And they think, oh, I need Steny Hoyer for access. Do you? For what? Is he ever going to give you actual news? No, he's going to give you his point of view that he's pushing out in the form of a leak, and that's the access that you'll have as mainstream media. Why don't you just do your jobs and actually report on why they vote on bills? You think that all that money, and we told you before about the millions of dollars that have been poured into the Democratic Party overall, and this is Hoyer's version of it. If you're a reporter, are you really gonna stay with a straight face that those millions of dollars do not affect them? What, the Democrats are angels? Republicans are affected by it, but Democrats aren't? Steny Hoyer doesn't care about his donors? Can you really say that? Of course you can't say that. So then why don't you report on the money he's taking as you see him helping his own donors?
And do you think it's a coincidence? No, guys, either they're terrible reporters, awful reporters. If you're a reporter and somebody told you, hey, somebody's taking millions of dollars for something, would you think that might be relevant? Of course you'd think it was relevant, because you're a normal, rational human being. Somehow our reporters flip it upside down, the mainstream media reporters, and they go, no, things that make sense will not be reported. We will pretend that Steny Hoyer is a principled man who doesn't care about the money he's taking. It's absurd. And so the facts are in there. We'll have the link in the description box. There's no question about it. But guys, it's actually the tip of the iceberg. It doesn't even get into the dark money. So this is just the ones that are visible. And then on top of that, as we told you in the last couple of weeks, the House Democrats as a group got millions of dollars, which Steny Hoyer, being the #2 Democrat in the House, would then take for his own campaign and fall out to other Democrats. And that's how corruption works.
Right, and then there's one other aspect to it that I have to mention. They get to invest in individual stocks. So I'm curious, do members of the House of Representatives have investments in the very companies, very corporations that I just mentioned? And the answer is yes. Yes, they do. That should be outlawed. If you want to be a public servant, then there are certain sacrifices that you have to make, including the inability to invest in individual stocks, period. And that goes for spouses as well, because they play these cutesy little games where their spouses will be personally invested in individual stocks that their either husbands or wives get to pass legislation about or avoid passing legislation about. It's crazy. I mean, it's just, this system is so corrupt in the form of campaign donations, in the way that these people get to invest their own money, and there are no laws preventing it from happening.
And I just want to give credit to Andy Hirschfeld, who wrote this piece for us and did a great job with it. Please read it and check out all the tyt.com/investigate stories. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.